Does your monthly income, your monthly revenue, feel like a broken yo-yo? One month it's up, next month it's down, next month it's back up again. And if you were to take an average over the last 12 months, it's kind of stayed the same. It's kind of fluctuated and ended up at the same point as you did before. Well, in this video, I'm going to be walking you through really what I've observed over about 300 clients across various different communities, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, as well as my own one-to-one clients across both of those domains over the last 10 months or so, and really why these fluctuations happen, how to really overcome them, and to, steadily and consistently increase your income by not doing more, but by actually rewiring some of the internal architecture within. So I hope this video is really helpful to you, especially if you find yourself in this position. So I recently just arrived back in Bali after being away for about 8 months or so. And I had a conversation with a client earlier in the week. And, we were reflecting on the last 4 months or so together. And the biggest thing, which was a massive breakthrough for him, was the fact that he was stuck at the same income for about 2 years or so. Now, it's not that he wasn't taking action. It's not that he wasn't moving forward. He really was. He was doing incredible work, but he still found himself stuck in the same income if he was to level it out over a 12-month period. And when we started to dive deeper into this in those beginning stages of working together, we were able to identify some of the key blockages that were unconscious. He wasn't even aware of these things. We were really able to pinpoint and dissolve some of those unconscious parts really quickly and integrate them. And this allowed him to actually double his income in the first 30 days of working together. Now, I'm not saying that those results are normal, but for him, he was able to really lean in. And it was just one of those times where you can catch the unconscious part and integrate it very, very fast. And sometimes that's very difficult to do by yourself. So even though he was doing this work, he still found himself in that position. So if you want to check out that conversation, that longer conversation, I'll link it somewhere around this video. I would right-click it, put it in a playlist for afterwards or sometime later where you can check out that in-depth conversation where we go through some of the things that we actually focused on in that journey. But in this video, I'm going to break down some of the things I recently shared on Instagram about this topic specifically because this seemed to resonate with a lot of people. And I want to kind of go through some of the things that you can do to stop this fluctuation and actually start to build momentum consistently without dropping off and, ending up at the same average overall. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So the first thing we're really going to dive into here is the fact that you can make it, but you can't hold it. Now, what we're talking about here is holding it long term, holding it consistently over a long space of time. Because what I've observed across a variety of different clients in different domains is that you can make money and you can be really good at making money, but you can also be really good at holding it long term. And this is where the internal rewiring really comes into play. And we're going to get deeper into this because what this allows you to understand is that holding money long term is very different than making it in the short term, because you can make money, but holding it is a different story. So when we're talking about holding it, what we're doing is we're talking about feeling fully safe with a larger amount of money. Now, you may be thinking in your mind, safe, what does that even mean? And of course, consciously, money is safe. Well, let's take a step back and kind of go deeper into this, because if we look at the nervous system and the subconscious mind, they are there to keep you safe. They are there to make sure that you are not threatened by anything in your environment, right? So if you have a negative experience in your past, for example, and in that moment, you decided unconsciously that this person's not safe or this environment is not safe, then you're going to feel that emotion viscerally, like through your body. Now, you may not remember that consciously, but it's there somewhere in the unconscious. And if there's some sort of association where you felt threatened in that moment, then your subconscious is there to remember that moment so that you do not repeat it again in the future. If we look at this on a deeper level, if the nervous system is here to support us, and to keep us safe. And the subconscious mind is part of this. It's all interconnected, but we're just going to mention those two for now. If those two are there to protect you, they're going to then restrict anything that stops you from feeling that threat again, or anything that threatens your safety, right? So now we're kind of getting into the deeper layers of this. You could look at safety as well through the lens of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is the part of you that feels safe with a certain level of income, a certain amount of certainty, a certain amount of predictability. All those things play a part in it as well. It's all part of that unconscious pattern. And if we get deeper into the money side of things, your conscious mind is going to say yes. Your conscious mind is going to say, hey, this is safe. This is something that is going to help me serve more people. It's going to give me more freedom. It's going to allow me to show up in a more powerful way. And I can give more and I can just do all these amazing things. I can live an amazing lifestyle. Of course, consciously, it sounds like it's safe. But if we go deeper into the unconscious, there may be associations there that cause it to feel like a threat. So an example of this would be, let's say you grew up in a household where there was a lot of money problems, or maybe there was just this negative connotation around money. Whenever it was talked about, whenever it was discussed, there was kind of these negative emotions, right? There was these feelings of like, oh, money must be bad, or it must be negative, because I can feel the energy of how the other people around me, the people who are raising me, those authority figures, how they're talking about it. Now, that's one example. It could be another case where, maybe that wasn't really an issue for you, but maybe you went through a business scenario where you lost a lot of money, or you observed a father figure or a mother making a lot of money and then losing it, and the impact that that had in your family. That can threaten your safety. So unconsciously, you'll make those decisions in those moments of, hey, it's not safe to do X, Y, and Z, or it's not safe to receive X, Y, and Z. Now, this could also go even deeper, and it could be unrelated to money entirely, where it's like, if you associate more money with being seen as someone who is visible online, and that's not something that you're comfortable with because you're kind of like, no, I don't want people to fully see me. I feel like an imposter, like all these different things. That will unconsciously reject the money as well because it threatens your safety. Now, a couple of other things that we can look at here is your lifestyle. So there's a current lifestyle that you have with the current income that you have, and that's an element of safety as well. There's an element of predictability in that as well, certainty. And, we don't want to just throw that away and risk going back to zero and losing the current lifestyle that we have. So we can then form this unconscious pattern of like, anything more than that may threaten my safety. And it could be linked to all these other things that we mentioned so far. It could be linked to time with family. There could be an association there where more money equals less time with family, or more money equals I'm not going to be able to spend as much time with my kids, or I'm going to have more responsibility. I'm not going to be able to show up fully because I might burn out, right? And maybe you're someone who's really careful about those different things because you don't want to lean into burnout. So more money for you may be linking to burnout. So we have to look at the contradictions that are there when it comes to our logical mind and how that affects the unconscious parts of us as well. Some of the other examples that we're looking at is it could start to bring up unconscious fears. So fear of not being enough. Like if you make that money, you could feel like you're not enough. So therefore you subconsciously reject it. Or a fear of losing it, right? So you don't want to make it just in case you lose it all because maybe in the past we had bad habits with money. So there's all of these different avenues that you could go down and they're all interlinked, but they all come back to the same thing, which is fear. There's a fear underneath the surface that is unconscious that stops this flow of money from coming in. So when we look at this from a deeper perspective, what we must do is reprogram the mind. Now, I know you've probably heard that a million times. Reprogram the subconscious, reprogram the nervous system, whatever the case is. Maybe some of those terms are new to you, but we're really looking at rewiring that internal architecture. And how we do that is through a couple of different methods that we'll get into in just a minute. But what I want you to really sit with is, how safe do I truly feel with the amount of income that I want to make? Think about the goal that you have for your income right now. And if you were to think beyond that goal for a second, even stretch your mind a little bit bigger, do you feel safe with that amount of money? What's the immediate thought? What's the immediate feeling? If it's not a state of gratitude or joy or excitement, then unconsciously under the surface, there may be something just that's kind of rejecting it that is worth going deeper on. This is really the internal training, like the internal battleground, where we are learning to feel comfortable and safe at a new level of income or a new level of love or a new level of health. Like whatever the case is, you can apply it to anything, but money is a big one with this. We're training ourselves to feel comfortable at that level. If you think about Neville Goddard, right? Big in the manifestation space, talks about living in the wish fulfilled. Living in the wish fulfilled allows you to feel comfortable, to fully show up at the level that you're wanting to get to in the now moment. This is very tied to this because we must feel safe with that, or else we're going to subconsciously reject it, like we touched on. So we don't do this by reading about it. We don't do this by thinking about it. We don't just do this by watching videos about it, right? Even though if this is your first time hearing about it, then welcome. This is amazing. You're going to learn this and you're going to be able to implement something from it. Or talking about it, or doing more, which is really important. The last part here, doing more, is a big part of this because we can often think and default as entrepreneurs to think that if I just do more, it solves all the problems. But if you've been on that cycle and your income has kind of stayed around the same level, then it's not necessarily about doing more because you've clearly shown that you can do that. You've clearly shown that you can show up from this place and take action, move forward, make decisions, and move with courage. But what we need to do is actually take a step back with some of these things and look at what's going on underneath the surface, so that every time we do take action, it's coming from a stronger foundation. That's really what we're looking at here. We're looking at building the internal foundation that's going to allow you to hold this long term, so that the actions that you take are potent, right? And they're on a solid foundation that's able to support that new level of wealth that you're moving towards. So how do you do it? Well, you do it by slowing down to speed up. Now, what I mean by this is not just stopping everything entirely and going off grid and closing everything down or burning it to the ground. We're not necessarily talking about that at all. We're talking about surrendering into the fact that you can stop and you can just be, and you can be fully present with what's coming up for you right now, and allow that to really flow through you, right? I know that sounds a bit airy-fairy, but trust me, when you slow down and you allow whatever emotions are going on within you, whatever feelings you're feeling, or whatever is going on in your mind, if you allow yourself to actually take a step back and slow down the pace, you'll start to be able to really hear what your intuition, what your soul, whatever you like to resonate with, is really trying to tell you, right? Your higher self, your higher mind. What's that really trying to tell you? And oftentimes, the only way we can really hear that is by slowing down. And this is the foundational part of all of this. So we're getting into some more examples. Another one I have down here is integrating energy blockages. Now, this can sound very complex, but it's actually quite simple. When we talk about the fear, right? We'll use fear as an example. Fear would be an energetic blockage, because fear in itself is an emotion. An emotion is an energy that's in motion. So an energetic blockage is an emotion that's not actually moving, right? Because these things are here to just move through us. But oftentimes we block them because we feel like they're negative, they're not right, we don't want to feel them, we just want to push them away, we want to hide away from them, we want to run away from them. But when we do that, we cause a blockage, so it gets trapped inside of us, right? If you think of it, somewhere in your body, it just gets trapped and it gets stuck there. And when it gets stuck there, it can't move. And when it can't move, it's blocking you. It's blocking your energetic frequency from being at an elevated state, to really show up from a powerful place, to feel safe with a new level of income, to be able to move forward with courage, and to be able to hold the income that you're really looking to hold, right? Because money at the end of the day is energy. You may have heard that before. You may think that's complete bullshit, but everything is energy, right? So challenge your belief there. Look deeper into that. So when we talk about integrating energy blockages, we're talking about integrating fears. We're talking about integrating doubt, integrating guilt, integrating shame. There's been a number of clients I've worked with, and what I've seen, especially when it comes to guilt and shame, if there is anything underlying there that may have come from a past experience, come from a past event, something that they're not necessarily addressing full on, but it's there in the past somewhere and it's unconsciously just blocked. That's one of the biggest ones, because if we look at David Hawkins' map of consciousness, right? Map of consciousness is a great way to just look at emotions and the scale of that. It's a very easy way to portray these different emotions. You'll see that guilt and shame is at the very, very bottom of that list. And it's at the bottom of the list because it holds a very dense weight. So these energetic blockages are pulling you down, right? If you think of it this way, you could be moving forward and you could be pumping hot air into a hot air balloon. And that hot air balloon is kind of bobbling along the ground. You're kind of taking off, you're kind of going up and down, kind of like the income, right? So like a metaphor for that. But until you cut the sandbags at the side of the basket, it will constantly bobble up and down. But when you cut the bags, it will naturally ascend. It's the same thing when it comes to your energetic frequency. So integrating some of these energetic blockages is one of the biggest things that you can do to really just cut yourself loose and not necessarily do anything differently, but show up from a completely different place. And all of this plays a massive part in you being able to hold that next level of wealth that you're looking for. So the next thing then is intentionally meditating. Very, very closely tied to what we just spoke about, because intentionally meditating allows you to fully show up in a way that is calm and cool, collected, right? Whatever you want to say. This meditation, when I say intentional, means that you are intentionally using that time and that energy, that space, not to just sit and quiet the mind. That's a very powerful thing you can do as well, but to really connect with that deeper aspect of yourself that feels unsafe. Something I refer back to a lot is the inner child. The inner child is within all of us. The inner child is the thing that holds all the joy in our life. And we all have it. We all lived a childhood, right? You wouldn't be here watching this video if you didn't have a childhood. And there may have been moments in that childhood where you felt neglected. You felt pushed to the side. You feel like you didn't get what you needed. And they're all part of your journey to lead you to where you are today. And that's a beautiful thing. But if we do not pay some attention to that inner child within us, then it's going to feel this kind of friction in everything that you do as an adult because it feels neglected. Now, we're kind of getting into the more healing and spiritual aspects of this, but when we're looking at intentionally meditating, what we're looking at is just sitting with that part of yourself. When you feel emotions that are around fear or doubt or uncertainty or guilt or shame or any of these different things, and you may not even be feeling them, you may actually just be, experiencing the mind result of that, which is a surface level, overthinking or second guessing yourself or all these different things. But when you tune into the energy of what's going on here under the surface, you'll notice that there's a part of you that does not feel like it is fully accepted. And that's the shadow aspect, right? If we call it the shadow, that's what Carl Jung talked about, the Swiss psychiatrist, incredible man, incredible studies. And he talked about the shadow. It's the same thing, those unintegrated parts of ourselves. We need to make these unintegrated parts of ourselves part of us. We don't need to neglect them. We don't need to push them away. We need to make them part of us. And the best way that we do this is by fully accepting that part of ourselves. So intentionally meditating can simply be sitting down and processing through that in a very powerful way. And doing this allows you to recalibrate with some of that energy and allow that energy to flow instead of feeling like it is blocked within you. Now, if this is your first time hearing all of this, I totally get you. Some of this can feel very strange. It can feel like it is a thing that is new. But I would challenge you here. I would challenge you to lean in, especially if you're experiencing this, right? I'm not here to force you to think a certain way, but I am here to serve you in a way that is powerful. And this has been some of the most powerful and potent work that I've done in a group setting and also in a one-to-one basis. So hopefully this is kind of resonating with you in some way, shape, or form. So the next thing then that I'm going to touch on here to help integrate this and to help, really achieve this new level is to stop being reactive. It's a very simple thing that we can look at here, but being reactive is allowing our emotions to fully take over and hijack the journey in the process. Now, if you were to complete the previous steps that I just outlined, you're not going to be reactive, right? You're going to eventually start to just calm your state. You're going to be very proactive instead of reactive, because the reactivity actually comes from the lack of integration of those different parts that we just talked about. Because when we, experience fear or we experience something in the world that triggers us, an emotional trigger, some people refer to it as, when that happens and an emotion comes out and we immediately kind of reject it, or we take an action because we feel afraid, or we start to move, or we start to do anything unconsciously because of something that affected us outside of ourselves, we are being reactive. And when we are being reactive, we are out of alignment with our true essence. We're out of alignment with the person that we are aiming to become, to really serve the people that we're aiming to serve and to really build the thing that we're in the process of building. So being reactive is experiencing something outside of you and then unconsciously moving in a certain direction, or saying a certain thing, or doing a certain thing that is not from a conscious choice, but from a reactive state. So if you can catch yourself in those moments and not be reactive, what you do is you simply pause. You can take a breath, right? So simple. We oftentimes forget to do it. And in that moment of taking the breath, you've now put the hand in front of the situation and you said, I choose to be proactive. I choose not to be reactive right here. And in that moment, you actually reprogram your subconscious mind to stop jumping around and being reactive. You actually cause yourself to drop into a more calm state. You regulate your nervous system, and doing that on a consistent basis with little things, starting small. It's a big way to regulate your system, reprogram your mind to raise this energetic set point to be able to receive and hold more of this wealth that you're looking to generate. So there's some of the things that you can really do in a practical way to really bring this to a close. So we'll end it there. I don't want to go too deep. I know we covered quite a lot, and there's a lot of different things here that you can take and you can implement into your life. And what I would challenge you to do is really just think about, what part of me does not feel safe holding this next level of wealth? And even just pondering that, even just sitting with that feeling, sitting with what comes up for you, is going to be a powerful process to go through. And you can do that after this video. You can take a pause. And, if you want to go deeper on this, you can check out that video that I mentioned at the beginning. It'll be linked somewhere around here again, or somewhere in the comments below. And that will take you to really the journey of one of my clients who experienced this firsthand. So if you'd like to check that out, go ahead and watch that video. But other than that, this has been Jordan. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of this video. And I wish you an amazing day. Much love. Take care.